Hey, everybody, welcome back to The Negotiation. My name is Todd Embley, and I am your host as always. And I am thrilled to welcome Xiang Chen, WPIC Marketing Technologies VP of Strategy and Insights. Xiang is a key executive overseeing WPIC's e-commerce and market intelligence programs on behalf of consumer brands from a wide range of sectors. Xiang, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Todd. It's an honor to be here.
All right. So, where are you based right now, where we're recording you from?
I am currently in Nanjing, China right now, where we have one of our offices in China. I am normally based out of Beijing, but
Mm-hmm.
due to my job, I frequently travel between Beijing and Nanjing and Hangzhou, where my team operates out of.
Right. Okay. Well, I loved China for travel. I thought it was one of the best places to travel. I don't know if you do trains. I was a big fan of taking the trains and staying away from the airports. How do you travel when you need to get around? Do you fly?
I am almost exclusively a train guy, you know,
Yeah.
and with the high-speed trains, I can pretty much get anywhere in China in 5 hours with a train.
Mm-hmm.
It's only when I go to like coastal, like somewhere in Guangzhou
Yeah.
or Guangxi provinces, I would fly because a 11-hour train is less than pleasant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for business, I'm almost 95% trained. I
Yeah.
also
And
live by
that's
the train station.
a pro tip, I think, for a lot of people. If you're moving around China and you haven't gotten into the train thing, do it because you have to show you don't have to show up super early. You get a nice comfortable ride, especially if you're afraid to fly. That's definitely the way to go. And you get even some internet, right? Like, I remember I used to be able to get, now that there's 5G and everything, but you can hotspot to your computer. You can actually get some work done. You can actually send some messages. You can do a few things online as well, which a lot of times you can't in an airplane as well. And then you get in and like take Beijing for an example. When you fly into the airport, you have at least an hour from the airport to get downtown, whereas the train station's literally right downtown. You can be where you need to go in a short amount of time. So, yeah, exactly. Pro tip: anybody traveling around China, definitely look into the trains. You don't have to fly everywhere, and it's a very comfortable experience. Okay, let's jump into a little bit of your background. Just tell us a little bit about your role and what you do at WPIC.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I am Chinese Canadian. I was born in China. I moved to Canada at a very young age. My family actually moved to Calgary when I was 8. I was raised in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and then got my bachelor's in engineering at the University of Toronto. So I spent basically my adulthood in Toronto. I moved to China in 2018 and joined WPIC shortly after the pandemic broke out
Mm,
in 2020. Right, I am
yeah,
perfectly bilingual. I speak Chinese Mandarin is my mother tongue, and I speak English. I think I speak English perfectly fine,
natively. Yeah.
um, natively, right? And I know both cultures very well. I'm sort of like a bridge between East and West in WPIC, as well as for our clients who are mostly foreign Western companies, because I'm raised in one culture, raised in a Chinese Canadian household, but I'm also got most of my education in another in the Canadian education system. So yeah, I'm pretty good at reading both cultures.
Yeah, and
And
that is really important because they're very different.
they are right. And so at WPIC, what I do is I start off leading the IT product division. We have IT product services, right? I led that division. Then my role expanded to include the data insights division as well, or what we call Discripto. Earlier this year, I was promoted into the role of the VP of Strategy and Insights, where I support the teams running all of our ecom programs out of China, right? So that's the strategy side of my title, as well as still keeping the data division, which is the insights part of my title.
Okay. Yeah. I want to talk first about Descripto. I've been longtime friends with the founders of WPIC, Jake and Joseph, going on over a decade at this point. And Descripto, I mean, no shade on any other product from WPIC, and I don't claim to know them all very well, but Descripto is so super cool. And I would go into why I think it is, but I'm going to let you do that. Please tell us about Descripto, that market data solution from WPIC, and why is it such a useful tool for brands?
Okay, so Discripto is a complex system. It's where we deploy proprietary data collection systems combined with industry-leading data sources, and that source includes first-hand consumer research, consumer data, and first-hand platform data. So not getting at second-hand, third-hand, but first-hand data combined with our own proprietary data collection or data collected, right? All of this is fed into a tuned, and we tune is a it's frequently tuned analysis system, and the output of that system is being analyzed or studied by a team of experts, and these are people who combine many decades of Chinese e-com experience. That's our team of experts, expert data analysts, looking at the results, and then they either refine the system and the process repeats itself, or they accept the result and then create insightful data reports based on the client's requirements and on the result of that system. So it's a beautiful combination of technology, process, and people. And the output is generally very, very insightful, pun intended, right? And our clients are generally very happy with the reports and the presentation they receive.
Yeah. You said the tuning part, and I want to go off script for a sec and ask you about that tuning part, because what is it about the digital landscape of China that requires tuning of Descripto? What are the types of things that are changing? Regulations, information privacy stuff. I'll let you answer that, but why are you tuning it? What is actually happening in the broader landscape around China, or just in the world in general? For example, it doesn't even have to be specific to China, but just what is happening in that world that requires the tuning?
Okay, that's a great question. So a couple of years back, and actually not now looking back, it's probably 4 or 5 years back, the rise of PDD, right,
Yeah.
really brought a seismic shift for Chinese e-com. And PDD is the second largest platform in China, overtaking JD.
Pinduoduo.
Pinduoduo, yes, it's a Nasdaq listed company. PDD is the ticker, so
Yeah.
we often refer to it as PDD. So with the rapid rise of PDD, of course, we need to include it in our systems and processes, so we get a comprehensive look at the market data, whether a brand has a PDD store, whether PDD is a right fit for a potential client, because the demographic, the price point, is vastly different than JD or Tmall, which is the traditional ones, right? And then recent years, and this is actually 2021, going back 2020 and 2022, is the rise of Douyin, or known in the West as TikTok, which it's not only a very rapid ascent, but there's also a completely different way of doing business, selling online. PDD was fast, but it was still a traditional marketplace. But Douyin is what we call an interest-based or social commerce, where the purchasing behavior is completely different than what we've seen so far. And again, this requires tuning, inclusion of more data sources, more tools, more platforms, and then the collection and analysis all require, we call it tuning, optimization, iterations. So stuff like this, when it happens, we adapt, right? We're not just looking only at the original Tmall and JD and say we're done, but we need to adapt as the economy and the Chinese market changes.
Right. Yeah, because I would imagine some of that data you're trying to provide is insights into not just the snapshot of what is, but where were we? And then let's draw that line from A to B to try to extrapolate out and figure out, okay, where are we going? And what are people looking at? And how are they basing purchasing behaviors? Or even the fact of, I don't know how long it's been since China has seen a payment solution. interruption or enhancement or pivot or new payments coming in. But I'm imagining that you really have to stay on top of that, because that's got to be a part of what's really useful for brands coming in. So you wrap that all up into a question that says, what are some examples or situations where brands are actually working with WPIC on Discripto data projects?
Okay. Without disclosing specifics, um, generally speaking, we can help a brand at any stage of their China strategy, and we have. The first category are brands looking to enter China that they're not present in China. They are looking to expand overseas. For them, they're foreign. Overseas means China. And when they're looking to enter China or launch a new product line, what we normally can offer is an opportunity assessment, a size of prize analysis, as we call it. And this is one of our most common client applications. Basically, the idea is to tell them where the market is at, where their competitors are at, or even who their competitors are. Oftentimes, they're unaware who their competitors are in China, and whether or not they have a chance for success in China based on their product, price, target demographic, etc. And if the answer is complex, then we offer actionable steps and solutions. We go, okay, you do A, B, C to be successful. And if you do C, it's going to up your chances by a lot because here's the data that supports it, right? So that's our number one group of clients. Number two, second group of clients are, our existing e-com clients, which I also oversee. So for these clients, Discripto is not an explicit product that we sell to them. It's just it can be a part of their package of services that they already bought. And what we do is we work behind the scenes to inform store strategy to the operators, continuously optimizing, things like ad placement, consumer targeting, all this continuous improvement process to improve return on ad spend, basically get more bang for the buck, and drive healthy revenue growth. Now, the other side of this group of clients are clients that don't work with us on e-com, but they are already in China. And they're often hitting a plateau in terms of growth, or their P&L is less than desirable. So, we can help analyze their store, their store strategy, kind of like an external audit, right? And then we can provide basically a roadmap for them to hit the next level of growth or a path to profitability if they're having P&L issues. Yeah. We're actually seeing quite a number of clients like this coming our doors right now. As their existing partners often lack the data capabilities we offer. This is something I've seen. I've actually just got a call with a potential client yesterday on this. And then lastly, we have clients that are huge multinationals with a mature China presence. Then as a case by case, we can help them do tailored data solutions like re-vector the China strategy, develop new product strategies, etc. But that's a bit more case by case.
Yeah. I remember once back in the early days, as I got to working with Jake and Joseph and the WPIC team a lot more, asking what is Discripto? And Joseph said, for all intents and purposes, we can download and then understand the Chinese internet. Just put it that way, and it was really that I don't know why that description kind of hit home with me, saying like, listen, if you were a fledgling company like Roots, but not Roots, but you were new and you wanted to go into China, then, using Discripto, we can figure out so many things like what are, all your competitors. Maybe you are Roots and maybe you want to know where is Roots listed everywhere. And then we can kind of dismantle those stores because of copyright infringement or some things like this. So we can understand where in China and throughout China are people searching and finding us, and what platform, what type of device, what kind of payments are they using from different regions, and what is the advertising that works, and where are the ROAS strong, and just amazing stuff. It almost seems like you're going to get, I don't know how you even disseminate all the information that you possibly get. But it was like, if you pick the right spot on the horizon, and what you get back is going to be everything that you need. Tell us why, in your opinion, market data is just so important to have in order to be able to run a successful consumer business in China.
Okay. And that's a question I often get asked by clients, potential clients, peers. Basically, everybody has that question. Why is data so important? And I don't want to get into like the marketing lingo, big data this, big data that, but let me
Yeah,
just illustrate to you why it's important. Is that one thing I often say is that China is a very and almost extremely competitive market where brands of the world, from Australia, French, German, other European countries, to the US and Canadian companies, to Japan, Korea, even Southeast Asian countries like Thailand, Indonesia, like brands from these countries come to compete for that 1 billion, people consumer market. So in this market, and this is a phrase I often say to everybody, is that you cannot expect the market to meet you, and you must meet the market. Like that's something that's just the
yeah,
go-to,
yeah,
for China. So being the largest, and also the most competitive consumer market in the world, um, it's you need to make data informed decisions, right? Because the market is vast and there's lots of actors playing in it. And on top of that, what we've seen in the recent 2 or 3 years is the dominance of social media in influencer marketing added an extra multiple dimensions to this whole mix.
for sure.
And so the result of this is one of the most sophisticated and well-informed group of consumers in the world, because KOLs are educating and the brands of the world are fighting for the attention and the money basically of this group of consumers. So therefore, to be successful in China, every brand that wants to be in China needs to know their product market fit as well as their price market fit, and that's what Discripto provides, is that insight, right? And if that's not enough to convince people, the fact that oftentimes their competitors, both global competitors and domestic brands, are using data in their everyday operations, and that is often to kind of drive them to think about what we in the industry call data informed decision making. And yeah, basically the market is demanding that brands use data, think about data, and pay attention to data.
Yeah. Xiang, I really appreciate that answer because you've kind of tripped me onto something that here 4 years into this podcast I hadn't actually really considered before. Not only do we have the most sophisticated, advanced consumer class, knowledgeable consumer class in the world, but what I failed to bring to that conversation or to that equation is that you also have some of the most sophisticated competitors in the world as well. So if you're a brand in North America and you're doing very well in North America, I would say that you probably have an American culture and you have a bit of a gut feel for who your consumers generally are, and you yourself exist and interact and use social and purchase and make your own decisions, every individual in that company probably in that market as well. So you have a lot of idea of of what goes on there in house and yourself. It's within the company almost organically. Okay. But now, if you're going to go to somewhere like China, not only is the entire consumer class and the way that they shop and the way that they purchase and the way that they think and the way that they respond to certain types of ads or, I don't know, reviews on your store, what have you, is very, very, very different. But it's also the most competitive from the external as far as who you are competing against and how smart and fast and intelligent they are as well. Just given the environment in that everyone wants to be there. So again, not to talk people out of going there and brands going there, but it's just ever more present, in my opinion, that you need to have a really good quality partner that has the best data. Another question for you though. Like you said, you're perfectly bilingual. You've bridged both cultures. Could you see another area of the world that you could possibly have something anywhere near like Descripto? Like, could you bring Descripto to Canada?
Um, hmm, Canada is.
Or for anywhere else. I mean, the way the digital game plays,
Mhm.
and all the hookups and tie-ins and everything that you have, being able to gain access, and the way that it all works there, is it possible for
Now,
somebody, maybe there's an engineer
mhm.
listening who's thinking, oh, I'm going to build Discripto for France?
Now, China is very different than certain Western countries, and in that, in Canada and the U.S., which I'm most familiar with because I haven't grown up in Canada,
Yeah.
um, Descripto is not a good fit, and the reason being, one, brick and mortar is alive and very well. It's very
Yeah.
siloed. You got the Best Buy selling electronics, and then you got the other stores selling their stuff, and it's very siloed. And they sell in stores and on their own website. And in terms
Mm-hmm.
of e-com, there isn't really much competition outside of Amazon. I know there's like Shopify, like individual boutique stores, but basically,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of a platform, there is just Amazon, and then you do everything basically on Amazon if you want to, right? So, and you use Amazon services, you use Amazon's data, and you rely on Amazon exclusively for data. And they do offer a great data solutions, data tools to help. There isn't much soil for Descripto to really blossom in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then there's also a heavy component of SEO because search engines still one of the significant, has a significant market share in terms of online marketing, whereas in China it's actually minimal now, right? The whole search engines, because we've moved towards social marketing. So, to answer your question, in the West, because the way it's structured and the reliance on Amazon and Google predominantly, sometimes Facebook, but mostly Amazon, Google on for all your e-com marketing needs and data research needs, there isn't much room for Descripto. However, the flip side is that emerging markets, and this is one where we are expanding into the
Yeah.
Southeast Asian countries with Lazada, Shopee, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, all these countries. This is where Discord can also shine because it's a multicultural setting. There's a billion people. There's actually probably more than a billion people in Southeast Asia, with increasing purchasing power, increased income, and very fragmented kind of way of doing e-com. And this is where Discript can also shine because we can integrate into these domestic markets, gather data, and create basically a Southeast Asia strategy for our for brands looking to expand. So
Yeah. I
so it.
mean,
Mhm.
I asked you that question kind of knowing, this would be the answer, but it's just, I guess in a way, it's the epitome of capitalist in a way out there. It's the wild wild east. Everybody is allowed to try. Everybody is allowed to go. Everybody's allowed to grow, and you just see new entrants every few years growing up. Where it's Xiaohongshu or Pinduoduo Douyin or whomever. I mean, everybody comes up. Everybody's doing fascinating things, but it is so multi-platform, and there's so many different types of payments, and you have like everything is allowed to kind of flourish, and that makes it really hard for new brands and entrants to come in if they don't have good partners or good data. And again, Southeast Asia as well, very very similar. It's wide open. There's so many different platforms, and there's so many different the pie is cut into so many different pieces in so many areas, versus kind of the monolithic types of whoever's in the West or maybe in Europe too. Although I don't know Europe as well, so I don't want to call them out for that. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's really cool. I want to maybe move into just maybe talking about a branding strategy, because I know that's a big part of your job as well. So give us an example of a consumer branding strategy that you think is really great, really cool, really innovative, and something that you've just found to be particularly impressive in China.
Yeah. So there are many examples that I've looked at throughout the years,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the most recent examples, due to some cases I'm working on, is in Australian probiotics brand called LifeSpace. right? So the Chinese probiotic space is highly competitive. Alibaba, Tmall,
Mm-hmm.
really developed it 6 or 7 years ago from zero. Probiotics was not a big concept in China, and now it's one of the top three health supplements category in the entire country. So it's a very, very competitive space. And what LifeSpace did is they entered a highly competitive market, and through a very carefully crafted product assortment, to positioning those products up against target consumer demographics, to crafting an extremely precise and coherent product targeting product messaging. And then the final result is one of the largest probiotic brands in China. They're actually a market leader. I think they're top. I think they're either top one or top two right now in China. And the strategy of LifeSpace, and the reason why we're looking at it is because the strategy of LifeSpace is one where every consumer brand can learn something from. Even a simple thing as appeal to your specific target demographic visually through the product photo that you see on the platform, to the product description page, we call it PDPs, right? And then keeping this message consistent across all channels, not just on the Tmall store, but also in the live stream rooms, on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And it's something as easy as that. Yet I see brands all the time fumble this. So, and the fact that LifeSpace can keep it consistent, consistency is one thing, but also do very targeted demographics is very impressive. And they're a case study my team and I are doing, so we can kind of educate our operations team, which I also support, to kind of push out that change to our clients and prospective clients, right? And it's something, and it's like an example. Let me just give you an example. Is that something as simple as we have this probiotic to help pregnant mothers. It's safe, like tested, stuff like that, and LifeSpace will have all these certifications and whatnot on their page. But a very important thing is they have a pregnant woman holding her, holding her
Her belly.
her belly in the product picture on just like on the corner, and then they'll list all the ingredients and the benefits on the other side in big fonts. And just 3 seconds in, if you're expecting mother, 3 seconds in, you're like, oh, this is something I can do, versus where it's just a bottle and some text, which is right. And then you go in and everything is specially crafted and tailored to appeal to a pregnant mother. And if you go in the live stream room, that's the exact same thing they're presenting. If you see it on Xiaohongshu, we call it Little Red Book, that's the exact same thing for that specific product you see. And then for maybe like something for elderly people, that's a completely different messaging from the same brand, right? So we're actually very impressed at their the precision at which they run their products.
Yeah. You're clearly an expert on China's consumer landscape there. What are some of the hottest sectors in China right now?
Okay, I'm gonna give you the top three that I see based on the
Okay.
data. Again, these are like official data reports, and some of it is our own proprietary data. But what we're seeing, number one, hottest space, especially for foreign brands, is the supplement space by far. Due to various historical reasons, I'm not going to elaborate on them here, but Chinese consumers have a deep distrust of certain domestic health food brands. So, and this is where the foreign brands really shine. And in addition, due to COVID, really highlighting the importance of health and supplements and keeping your body healthy. This is one of the few areas that's experiencing double digits, and for some product categories, triple digits growth year over year and quarter over quarter. Just Q1 23, we're seeing like double and triple digit growth, which is phenomenal in Chinese e-com because it's so big already that we're still able to see this type of growth. Chinese consumers view supplements as the number one way of keeping themselves healthy, overtaking physical activity like exercise, right? So that's number one. The second hottest sector I'm seeing is the pet market, especially the pet foods and anything cat related, cat food, snacks, toys, accessories, whatnot. Because modern day China is a very high pressure and fast paced lifestyle. and people are stressed. They're a little bit stressed, under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So people on either end of the age spectrum, the young adults and the elderly, are extremely lonely in their daily lives because of the either they are fast paced or their children are fast paced, and there's not really time to kind of take care of the family
Relax.
or
Yeah.
right. So cats, which are incredibly cute, as everyone knows, they're a great companionship pet, and they also have the added benefit of needing very little time commitment. You don't need to walk them every day like a dog. They can take care of themselves. You just take care of the kitty litter and you feed them. That's all you do, right? So cats, in recent years, the number of cat owners really exploded because they're like the perfect solitary companionship pet for single households, or we call them single family households or single person households,
Mm.
right? So, and these cats are being treated as part of the family because it's a family of a person and a cat oftentimes. And
Mm-hmm.
when their emotional attachments for their owners, and as part of the family, they are treated the best, like as a real family member would be. So then for similar reasons to health supplements, this is another area where premium foreign brands really shine. The same can be said for dogs, just to a lesser degree, because relatively higher income Chinese people tend to live into cities, which have smaller home sizes. So, and these are not very friendly for dogs who needs to be active, right? And dogs also require more work. So, pets is growing double digits, but cats is really shining in this large category.
Cool.
And the third category I'm just gonna quickly go over is personal care, skincare market. This is a very, very large market already, where premium brands of the world come to compete in China, the Estee Lauders and whatnot. So it's not going to grow at 100% or 50% year over year. However, the average order value is steadily growing. Consumers spend more per order or spend more per product. And the biggest reason, there's lots of reasons. The biggest reason here is just simply that as people make more money, they are willing to spend a bit more on themselves to treat themselves on nicer products.
Would you say that as a lesser known, lesser paid attention to sector, and let's take nutraceuticals, or even something like sports apparel or something, as it becomes a bit of a wave in China where people, they cared, they did their certain things, but it wasn't a huge need for them to really be taking supplements and invest in themselves in that way. Once that shift or that wave really overtakes, does that sudden spike in a sector's growth, if it's relatively new to consumer habits or daily lifestyle, does that inherently, would you say that it offers an opportunity, a unique opportunity to foreign brands to jump in because there is less or none of an existing loyalty to locally homegrown products? So as they wait for their own homegrown products or brands to grow in prestige and loyalty and trust, that is kind of an opportune time for foreign brands to come in and have a great chance at getting a foothold.
Um, the simple answer is yes. So, in the nutraceutical space, it just presents an amazing opportunity for foreign brands. But the reason is not as what you described. Is not
Okay.
because consumers are waiting for a domestic champion to arise. Is there are a lot of historical factors, with
Yeah.
a lot of scandals, right? Like
Yeah.
a decade ago with like basically toxic infant formula. Chinese
Mm-hmm.
people just have this inherent distrust towards domestic food supplement regulation, or brands, right? And they Chinese people really prefer they're willing to spend more money on a product that was, say, EU certified or FDA, kind of FDA approved, because they know
Mm-hmm.
that, okay, I'm buying or I'm eating the exact same thing somebody in France or German or New York is eating, because this is like an EU approved product. So it doesn't contain things that are banned in the EU or it's banned in North America. So they trust the quality of the products. And 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 this is the space that foreign companies, Australian, the two largest supplement brands in China are Australian companies. This is where foreign brands really shine, and because there's that kind of natural trust factor. So as
Yeah.
long as your product price is a good fit for the market, and I kind of alluded to that, you need a product market fit and a price market fit,
Yeah.
um, and and then you have a good go to market strategy. This is where foreign brands will really shine. And you don't need to worry about a domestic product kind of
Okay.
growing and then really overtaking your market share, because once you're entrenched, once you've established trust, because this is stuff people eat every day. This is stuff people give to their kids, people give to their parents. Once there's a trust established in your brand, loyalty is going to be there, because people
Yeah.
don't easily switch their supplement brands, because
Yeah.
I've been eating this for 2-3 years without any problems. Why would I try something new, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know really what made me want to ask that question per se. Just thinking that some of those sectors have not been leaned on heavily by consumers in the past. And so, and COVID might have been a good example of a macro event that inspired a new wave of enthusiasm on something that hasn't really been too involved yet, therefore potentially a great opportunity. Now, that's not to say, though, that you're not going to face an incredible amount of competition. It just might not be as highly local of competition as you might have expected, whereas it's mostly foreign brands that you're now competing heavily with as well. And I want to lean on that touch on COVID and ask you how you feel consumer confidence has been since the COVID restrictions have been lifted from the beginning of the year.
Okay. So based on lots of data, market data, uh, macroeconomic data, the that from official or authoritative sources, and also empirical, things I'm seeing physically with me being on the ground here, I would say the word I would use here is cautiously optimistic. And I'm going to be very frank here. There's no kind of revenge spending that everyone expected. The
Mm,
consumers here are cautious in that they're definitely more conscious about where and how much they are spending. As there's still a hint of uncertainty about the economic and about their own futures, right? However, they are indeed spending more than during COVID, especially during 2022. Now, remember when I said they are one of the most well-informed consumers in the world? This is
yeah.
where that informed decision making kicks in. And the consumers are being very smart about the products they buy and the price they pay. And the rise of influencer social marketing is really contributing to this. It's basically a KOL with millions, I'm talking sometimes tens of millions of followers, saying, "Hey, this brand, best bang for your buck, great product," right? So so the good news is that the data is starting to pick up, and that everywhere I travel, I'm seeing packed malls and people lining up outside restaurants. This is something I haven't seen
Yeah.
since COVID. This is really reminiscent of the pre-COVID era, right? But consumers are definitely spending more energy on what they buy, where they buy, how much they buy than before COVID, because while they're still willing to spend, they have less money basically, or they're willing
Yeah.
to spend less money and save more. So they want to get the most bang for their buck, and it's natural. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I know that there was a lot of predictions around revenge everything, revenge travel, right? Everybody was just going to be escaping from everywhere. As soon as COVID lifted worldwide, everybody, suitcase sales are going to go through the roof, right? Everybody's going to travel. And it's been a tempered return. Like you said, cautiously optimistic. Good to hear that it's pretty similar in China too. They're being smart about it. And I think everybody's taking some measured approaches this time. We are recording this and publishing this less than a week from June 18th. And June 18th is, of course, 6/18, one of the biggest shopping festivals. It will be the biggest shopping day of the year so far, of course, until we get to 11/11.
Mm-hmm.
What are the early indicators and data that you're seeing as we are just minutes away from June 18th happening?
Okay. So, so 6/18, we call it 6/18, actually starts at 8 p.m. May 31st. So it's a thing that runs for 20 days, basically, in end of May, beginning of June. And but there's promotions and activities and marketing that leads up to it. For the entire month of May, you have to build up. We call it filling in the reserve of potential buyers, interested buyers, leading up to May 31st when you get the first wave, and then for another 2 weeks you build up some more, and then until you hit June 15th, which is the second and the last wave, right? So and 6/18 is what we call in the industry an S-level event. The only other one being Double 11. And what we've seen this year is twofold. One, the data actually looks really good so far. We're seeing some really strong numbers compared to last year. However, when we looked into the kind of the cause behind why we're seeing great numbers, is that these less S-level events, 6/18, Double 11, are becoming ever more important for brands because consumers, like I said before, they're trying really hard to get the most out of their money, and they're very conscious about their purchasing rhythm, right? Leading up to, during, and then after these events, because everybody in China knows these sales are coming, when they're coming, and the type of basically the best discount they can get for a good 6 or 7 months is during this 2-3 week period. So we've seen data that pretty much indicates consumers are stocking up for longer than normal periods. Instead of buying maybe like a 1 month supply, they're buying 3, 4, sometimes 5, basically in amounts that can last them until Double 11, which is in November, the other S-level promotion, right? So while the data is good, this behavior means that if a brand decides not to participate in, or misses 6/18 for whatever reason, or did not discount their fullest during 6/18, where the competitors did, then they're going to see headwinds that might last all the way into August, when A level, which is a degree lower, an A-level event takes place, and that's August 8th. We call it the 8/8 or Double 8 VIP sales. So 6/18 is becoming ever more important. A strong 6/18 data is not indicative that it's going to be a strong year throughout. It's just 6/18 is getting much more important than previous years because the consumers are being smart, and everybody has to adapt to that post-COVID reality.
All right. Wow. Sounds like that Costco mentality of buy way too much and way more than you need is starting to penetrate everywhere.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Okay. So Xiang Chen, WPIC's Marketing and Technologies, VP of Strategy and Insights. I want to thank you very, very much for coming on the show and bringing so many good hot takes, especially all the information around data. That was a really, really great interview. Really, really great insights and information for our audience. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Todd. It was my pleasure.
So for everybody listening to us on the podcast, which you can find on Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, please don't forget that we are live, not live, we are on video on YouTube, on WPIC's YouTube channel. So please head over to the WPIC YouTube channel and you can check us out there, plus lots and lots of shorts from each of these conversations picking out some of the smartest things that we may have said during this show. But from me and everybody else who's involved with the negotiation, I want to thank you for listening today, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Todd. Take care.
Okay. Hang out. It is just stopping, and I just